Action.
Jim has returned to Nebraska after 20 years from New York. He has all intentions to go meet with Ántonia. The only things he's heard about her, was that she married and she has a lot of children, like 14, I think it said.
Yeah, like a dozen.
Yeah, she has a lot of kids. Unless he knew she had a daughter, I think.
Martha.
Jim arrives to her farm and he's greeted by some of her boys, and like it's a good impression on him. Like he thinks she lives at a really nice place. He walks in the house and Ántonia doesn't recognize him at first, but when she does, she's overcome by emotions, good emotions. That whole night is filled with stories from the past and stories that have recently happened to them that they don't know about. They take tours of the property and they look at old photos and more. Jim decides to sleep in the barn with some of Antonia's sons, and I think that this was maybe to connect with them in a way. Cusack, I think that's his name, Antonia's husband, and Antonia's eldest son returned from a trip. They meet with Jim and talk about their trip, and then at dinner they talk about the murders of Mr. and Mrs. Cutter. They were found in their house dead. Nobody knows more. The kids seemed really excited about this, to hear the story. Cusack and Jim walk at night in the orchard, and Cusack talks about how he's homesick for his country, but that Ántonia, her love and like her warm heart make that go away, and that she's good to him. The next day, Jim leaves the farm and the whole family waves him away, and he sees Ántonia like waving her apron away, like, goodbye Jim, I love you, I don't know. He goes to town, but he's disappointed because it's really different and he doesn't remember much, but when he goes to the outskirts and looks, even though it's different, he remembers like arriving there with Ántonia for the first time. They didn't know each other and they were just like in a new place, and it made him happy. And then the week ended.
It comes full circle.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like full circle. Him and Ántonia arrive there, and then at the end, he arrives back, but he still doesn't really know where he is.
Yeah. I know that in my summary I put in there how that, like, when he was greeted by Leo, he kind of, like, took a liking to him because he's kind of, like, really free spirit, and for some reason...
Ántonia wasn't that Antonia's favorite, too?
Yeah, Leo was his favorite.
It's just because he's, like, he's the most difficult, but at the same time, he's, like...
He's just like Ántonia, that's why Jim likes him so much, probably. Plus, it'd be hard because when he looks at her boys, he probably thought, like, these could have been my sons.
Yeah.
Like, this should have been my family.
And I thought it was kind of weird that he didn't, like, say, I guess that would have been inappropriate, but, like, I just love you.
Yeah.
But it kind of
No, I talked about that in the bravery section.
Yeah. Did you guys have any?
I commented on how Ántonia was still doing the well-groomed lawn and stuff by the Oxford Orchard.
Like, and I don't know, I just was saying, I said something about how, yes, I actually did. How, you know, he probably like saw her like in her children and stuff, and like you said, how it could have been his, but he went away and stuff.
Yeah.
Nice.
Chloe, do you want to share your courage?
Yeah, my courage has kind of evolved into bravery over the book. I just keep replacing the word. But,
Me too.
going back to, I think it was Marissa, she said something about how, no, it was Sophie, how he never, like, came out and flat out said, like, you know, I loved you, Ántonia. I think it's pretty brave to, like, come all the way back to, what was it, Nevada? To Nevada when he's... Nebraska. Okay, Nebraska, when he's, like, traveled all over the world, and he wants to go back to, like, his hometown and then actually see her, but then after, like, going so far just to come back and see her, he never crosses the line and, like, tries to, like, make her leave her husband, or even when she was with the other guy, like, he never stepped in and, like, tried to break him up. He just kind of, like, let her learn on her own because he knew that that's just how she learned. She was like a bold learner.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of said that, like, he's returning to see her, but he doesn't know what he's going to expect. He doesn't know if, like, emotions are just going to run over him. He's just going to, like, want her. But that didn't happen, but he didn't know if that would. I think he made a comment about, like, wondering if he was going to recognize her, if she was just going to look like an old, like, worn woman. So that was kind of courageous. Like, that'd be kind of weird to go away from someone and then come back and completely different. It's just like, oh, that's not the
like
person
seeing
I
your
love.
high school
I don't know.
sweetheart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I said that, like, I talked about Jim being courageous, but, like, mostly, I think that Antonia's courage, like, showed mostly here, because I think she's most courageous in this book because of the fact that she, even though her first engagement broke down and didn't work out, she wasn't afraid to jump back in and have a family and do all of that.
I kind of think she wanted to have a family, like, so she could have a good family and, like, give someone what she didn't have.
Yeah. And I think that's really courageous of her that she did not give up on that.
What's bold of Kuzak?
I don't know.
To Kuzak, we're going to call him Kuzak, to even go forth and marry her, since at that point she was kind of
Broken.
well.
But she kind of had a bad
She
reputation.
would be considered a slut for having a child and then not being married when she had the child, and especially since the guy left her. I mean, that made it even worse. So taking her would potentially demolish whatever reputation that man did have, but he still did it anyway.
What about you guys? Do you have anything?
I just said it was really, I don't know, I thought it was like really, with the courage thing, for him to even go back after such a long time.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
Something I was wondering, this kind of goes into section 3, like, there was nothing said about his grandparents' death, and, like,
No.
obviously they're dead. It's 20 years, and they were
He
old
said,
people.
no, he said that they were
It didn't
old
say
and still okay.
It did?
Yeah, he said that they were older, but they hadn't aged too much.
Huh?
Because
dead.
by
I thought
then,
they were dead.
by then he's only 40.
But why didn't he?
But, so
go
they would be
visit-
like 80.
Why wouldn't he go visit them?
Because they say, I was under the impression, that's why I thought they were dead. I was under the impression that they were old when he was young, and then he's gone
might
for
have
20
been-
years, and then he didn't
Because
visit
like
them.
he's like
That's what I was under the impression.
And it
the,
must.
the road that he was at, like that road that goes out into the farmland.
Mm-hmm.
That's where their house was. Like he was
Yeah.
right there. Why would he not go in and say hi? And like,
It might
that
have. I might have said that because maybe when he visited Martha, Antonia's first baby, when she was like just born, I think maybe that's when he made the comment about, yes, his grandparents definitely had aged, but they did not, or no, they were definitely older, but they had not aged in the face.
Okay.
So I mean,
They could be.
well,
dead.
remember she made a comment about funerals,
Yeah.
so maybe they were dead. But like when he went to the funeral, he just never saw Antonia, or something.
I found out that the road, they had said something about the road being overgrown for the farm.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they did die because no one took care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Or, I mean, even if they were alive, they wouldn't really be capable of taking care of it too much. And then for, like, courage for, I guess, the whole book, like, wrapping back to the beginning, the fact that Jim always manages to forgive Antonia, like, even from the beginning when she made a comment about how since Jim's grandparents were rich, that they should just automatically like share the money with the poor. And then like later on in life when she went to all the dances and was kind of like sleazy, and he forgave her for that. And then when she had a child, or when she like started seeing that man and then had a child with him, he like still managed to forgive her. And I mean that's pretty brave, because if you forgive someone, then it's potential that they can like break your heart again.
Yeah. I had, for my number 3, I did like a quote, and it's on page 211. It's the first page in the Kuzak Boys book, and I pulled out, in the course of 20 crowded years, one parts with many illusions. I did not wish to lose the early ones. Some memories are realities and are better than anything that can ever happen to one again. And I kind of pulled that because I think he's not just talking about his childhood memories, he's just going back to literally Antonia, and that's just like,
Yeah, his favorite memory, just
he
her.
doesn't want to lose the memory of her, and that's where he says, like, right before that sentence, he says that he doesn't want to find her aged and broken, because he doesn't want to lose that picture of her as
It would tarnish
that
the memory.
sweetheart that he had.
That's sweet. I didn't catch that. I like that. What'd you do for the last section, Soph? You did questions, right?
Yeah.
Me too.
Something I was wondering is why did Antonia never love him back like the way he did?
Yeah.
I would have loved that if a guy would have said that kind of stuff to me.
Or like if he had taught you a whole language that, because I mean, she couldn't speak that language with anyone in her family really. It's really this like new special language she could only speak with him. So it would kind of be like a love language. I don't know. I think that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then one of my questions was just like an overall questions like, why did Jim even love Antonia? Like, because she wasn't very lovable. She was just like
Why
more
so-
desirable than lovable.
And it's clear that like she never really liked him.
Yeah.
Maybe as like a brother, but he
Yeah.
liked her.
Even like way back when he kissed her, and what does she say about that? She wasn't like,
She like pushed him off and like, okay, far, let's do
yeah,
far. And,
like
that was supposed
like
to be a friendly
flippant about
kiss,
it.
Yeah.
yeah. And then Sophie said this to me earlier in class today, so I wrote it down. Like, does the introduction make sense now? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In a
Honestly,
way,
no.
it does, but it doesn't. Like we don't know who's writing it.
Yeah, that was one
But-
of my questions. Who wrote that?
It
Yeah, and who is he
does.
talking to?
I mean, it kind of like.
He's probably just traveling again, like on a train.
Yeah.
Either that or like,
Right here it says they both live in New York, so they're just acquaintances, I guess, and maybe Jim had an effect on whoever wrote it. I don't know.
it would have made more sense if it was like Lena or would have been Todia's sons or something.
Tiny.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, or Tiny.
Apparently, it's supposed to be like someone that he knows that also knows Antonia.
Yeah,
Aw.
that's
That
why
he
it
met.
bugs me that it doesn't say.
All right.
We were
That's-
supposed to be
that's-
reading
that's
these
a wrap.
paragraphs of the